We get our groceries by clicking a few things with our finger, literally swiping a few swipes and a few taps, and you got food coming into your door. So how different is that from that ancient person who lived 20,000 years ago? We've very different, but let's put the focus on the attitude that has changed, the relationship with the forces of nature that has changed.
Now
So,
nature's working for me.
yes. So what was lost is the reverence, is the appreciation, the respect, the sensation of dependency, that feeling that there is something greater than me that I am dependent upon. This feeling that just like I depend on mom and dad to feed me as a baby, I depend on the sun and the rain and the wind and the climate and the natural system here and its goodwill, so to speak, to feed me and give me what I need in order to live and survive and thrive. And so that has been completely lost from the taken away from the modern human consciousness. And what grew instead of that is a consciousness that revolves around the self, that revolves around we are humans on this planet. We are doing whatever we need to, whatever we want, basically, as long as we can. And I, as an individual, being a member of this human society, I will also try to do as much as I can to fulfill myself in my life as much as I can without getting into trouble, without getting into danger, depending on the laws and the culture that you're living and the conditions that you have, how much money you have, and so on. But the mindset is not, I need to take those surrounding forces into account because I depend on them, but rather I need to make my own life because I'm responsible for myself. And so that's a big change. That's a huge change.
About 200 years ago, most of this country, 70%, and it's probably the same in most places, was farmers. So
Right.
even if as much as humanity was developing, it didn't matter how much you developed, like you were still tied to the earth. You
Mm,
could be thinking whatever you wanted to think.
right.
Today, we have, like you said, you just click a button.
That's actually interesting. Like the our so to speak freedom from our imaginary freedom from nature, as much as it has grown, in the last 10,000 years, in the last 100 years, it grew even more than all of those thousands of years before that. In the last probably 100 or 150 years, it's insane with the exponential
Yeah.
this exponential curve of technological development. The world is a completely different place than what it was 100 years ago, and that just that 100 years, we've made so much progress that is equivalent to thousands of years, if you think about just the rate of development. Yeah, but the um, going back to today, so we went from being very dependent on nature to not giving a damn about the forces of nature. It's not something visceral and immediate for us that we need to worry about. We don't have that relationship of dependency on nature in 2019. And then comes 2020. And then comes 2020. And what we're starting to see is that all of a sudden, the world and human society on this planet, which has grown in the last 100 years, unprecedentedly, I don't know what's the word for it. Like, it has grown as interdependent and interconnected as it has ever been. We've never been so connected to each other across the globe in so many ties
Hmm.
of technology and information and the internet and our governments and our economy, which is a completely globalized economy in so many ways, and then cybersecurity and influence of culture and media. And if you think about, if you would try to map what has happened to this human species in the last 100 years, if you would visualize that, I imagine it like this intricately, vastly intricate web of, where you can't tell where the thread starts and where it ends. There's so many connections right now. There's so many dependencies. There's so many junctions where that connect everything to everything, that this is unprecedented. This was never the case before. And now, all of a sudden, with that interdependence, with this unprecedented connection globally, all of a sudden we're going into a pandemic. We're going into a situation where there is something that shakes and gradually, bit by bit, shatters, I would say, our way of life. All of a sudden we were going into lockdowns. All of a sudden, a year after 2021 right now, as we're talking, we still don't really know what's going to happen to this economy that we've
No, we
built.
know. I'll tell you.
Oh, no, we don't. Go ahead. Let's
Yeah,
get
we
into
do.
it. Okay.
Regardless
Okay.
of the
Yes.
lies, regardless of all of the lies that all of the media tells you, everything is closing.
And I would go even deeper. That's just the pure economic situation. Then there's also the psychological situation. Humans have changed so much in the last year that I'm not sure that people are even going to want to flock into the same malls and boutiques and flights and whatever it is, it is that they were doing the whole time. Things have changed. People have changed as well. So you've got a situation where we it's been too long already to just go back to normal, to just bring up the economy to what it was.
One of our
Eh,
friends put
yeah,
something about humanity's going through puberty. I saw that earlier in the chats. It's like, it's like if I came to him like, Asaf, you want to play with the Legos? You're like, no, I have things I'm doing. You're like, no, no, let's play with the Legos. You're like, I grew up already. Didn't you see? I'm a man. I'm moved on to bigger and better things.
yeah.
And when I
The
saw the inauguration the other day of President Biden, and I saw the Hollywood the celebrities up there, I was like,
yeah.
oh, I forgot about them. I forgot that was a thing. Like that's still a thing.
Wow, now I see what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah,
That's
huh? That is
like
some.
all of
No,
these
well,
like
our lifestyle was so, because the modern lifestyle of the modern human being was so intertwined with materialism. When you have an entire year when you're being forced to live a little differently, your mind becomes free to think differently as well. You know what I mean? So we've been given this period of time where the artificial link between materialism and happiness has been unraveled a little bit, and that enables a new psychology to kick in. So I think that millions and millions of people are already a little bit of different people. It doesn't mean that they already have a different goal in life and they don't care about, being convenient in their material life, but something's changing and opening has something has been
and
opened
here's
up in
something
our
here's
psyche. Yeah.
here's something beautiful. Here's something that we're talking about. This is part of this great transition, is that now nature will bring us back to her. And when we talk about nature, we're not talking just like a save the whale or like everybody should just, have an organic garden in the backyard, although that's nice. We're talking about the force that propels all of life. In order to take this um, essence and develop it, to get it, in order to develop it, to become conscious of the wonder of what nature is, to feel it as if it's our beloved, not as some abstract, I need sun, I'm praying to the sun, I need rain, I'm praying to the rain, or some pharaoh, or some all these other imaginations that we started to build for ourselves as we went through. Now, in a very clear and sober way, we're going to come face to face with with the wonder of what this source of life is.
I divide it to stages. That's what I would do. I would say that the closest stage is the nearest stage of development is that we start being more aware of how of our interdependence, um, and that this is a law of nature. See what I'm saying? So just like it took a while for people to understand the sun and the rain and so on, now human beings are very close to this newfound understanding, this newfound awareness that, oh, we're all dependent on each other and this natural system that we're in. There is a force and a law of interdependence that's greater than the individual, greater than what we just feel like doing or what we want to do, greater than our differences, greater than you being on the left and me being on the right, you being a black and I'm being white, greater than our culture, greater than our politics. We are bound by nature, and it is a force that is governing everything that's happening to us. Now, the first stage is that it appears in a threatening way. That's how it appears. And it takes a long time for us to recognize it, but it's inevitable. We're gonna have to discover that we're all connected to each other. You know what I mean? It's threatening at first, as COVID is showing us, and we're gonna see it soon with the economy. I'm pretty sure that's the next big thing that we're gonna see. A huge recognition that we can't go back to what it was, and we need to do something else about it. And then there's going to be a bunch of questions that are going to threaten the way of life that we knew. What is the human being supposed to do all day? What happens if you don't have work for all people? What does that mean about our sense of status and understanding of who we are and what we do in life, and this whole idea and plan that we used to we grew up on, that you grow and you find a profession and then you work and then you make money? And what happens if all of this is shaking and is starting to shatter piece by piece? So this law of interdependence is threatening us. But then, and that's the last thing I want to say, the next phase.
Old us.
What?
It's threatening old us.
Yes, exactly. That's the next piece I was getting at. That the next phase is to discover that if we change how we relate to each other, because of that force of nature, because of that law of nature, not because of anything else. If we start, it's just like understanding gravity. Oh, we can't jump off a building, we'll fall. Oh, we're interdependent. We can't sustain systems that are not functioning in an interdependent way. And if we recognize, the moment we start to see that it's all about changing the relationship between us, we can turn everything around. We can turn that law of interdependence into a new engine of prosperity and livelihood and sustenance for everyone and fulfillment for everyone. But that's going to take an inversion of the mind. You know what I mean?
Now we understand, just like our life came from denial, now we understand that our only good life will come from the good connections between us.
It's a force of nature that we have to come to terms with. Our interdependence is not because we created the internet. It's not because we created a globalized economy. It's a
result.
It's a result. Yes, exactly. The cause is that human beings are gradually evolving into a network, just like cells evolved into multicellular organisms and so on. It's a law of nature that we have to come to grips with.